Hey guys, the title of my story is So You See, It Does Not Pay to Be a Liar. In a very huge city in Africa, there live two best friends called Frank and Mike. Frank and Mike just graduated from college, so they were jobless and looking for a job. Frank wanted to get a job before Mike, so one day, Frank woke up early in the morning, took a shower, and he went out. When Frank came back, Mike said, "Frank, where did you go? I woke up and I didn't see you." And Frank said, "I was really bored, so I went out to do some exercise." Mike said, "Frank, you know I'm also bored, so next time you want to go out, please wake me up." And Frank said, "Okay, I will." After 2 days, Frank woke up early in the morning again, took a shower, and he went out. When Frank came back, Mike said, "I thought I told you, whenever you want to go out, you should wake me up." Frank said, "Oh my God, I forgot. You know it was 2 days ago you told me that." Mike said, "Frank, how can you forget something I told you 2 days ago? It's not that long." Frank said, "Mike, I promise, the next time I'm going out, I'm gonna wake you up. Definitely, I'm gonna wake you up." And Mike said, "Okay." So after 2 weeks, Frank woke up early in the morning again, took a shower, and he went out. Frank waited for 2 weeks so that Mike is gonna believe that he definitely forgot to wake him up. When Frank came back, Mike was so angry, so Mike held Frank's trouser and said, "You liar, you're gonna tell me where you came back, and please don't tell me you forgot to wake me up because you didn't. You're gonna tell me where you went, and please don't tell me you forgot because you didn't." And Frank said, "Mike, I went to do some exercise." Mike said, "Frank, you know what? I went to every single place I know people do exercise and I didn't see you." Mike said, "So, do you want to talk?" Frank said, "Okay, let me say the truth. I went for a window shopping." Mike said, "Who goes for a window shopping early in the morning?" Frank said, that is when I wanted to go, so I went. But Mike, I promise this time around, when I'm going out, I'm going to wake you up." Mike left Frank's trouser and said, "I hope so." And the next day, immediately Frank woke up, Mike also woke up. Because this time around, Mike slept the same time that Frank slept. Usually, Mike sleeps late because he watches football matches, shows, movies, and so on. But he slept early so that he can follow Frank to wherever he's going. And so, when Frank woke up, Mike was also awake but pretending to be sleeping, because Mike had a feeling that if Frank knew he was awake, Frank may pretend to be sleepwalking and so on. So Mike didn't want that to happen. So after Frank wore his dress and about to go, Mike said, "Frank, wait for me, I'm going with you." And Frank said, "Mike, actually, I wanted to check on something. I'm coming back." And Frank said, "But I thought you were supposed to be sleeping." Mike held Frank on his trouser and said, "Frank, we're gonna go and check on that thing together." And so, after Mike wore his clothes, he left Frank's trouser and said, "Frank, let's go." On their way, Michael said, Frank, let's go to the mall you said you did window shopping. And Frank said, I don't want to go there today. So Frank and Michael keep walking around the city, and Frank was praying for something to happen, so he's just gonna leave Michael and go to his appointment. And so a man who came back from New York, he was going somewhere and he kind of missed his way, so he was looking for his way out. Fortunately, he saw Frank and Michael, and his name is Mr. Jamie. When Mr. Jamie asked Frank and Michael whether they knew where he was going to, the road he was looking for, Michael said, yes sir, I know the road you're asking about. Frank also knew the road, but he didn't want to say he knew it. And so Mr. Jamie told Michael to get in the car, because even though Michael should direct him on the way he's gonna go, he'll still miss his way. And so Michael entered the car, but he was kind of scared because he didn't know Mr. Jamie. And so Michael said, Frank, come and let's go. Frank said, ouch, my head hurts. I need to go home. And Mr. Jamie said, okay, get into the car so I can take you home. Frank said, no sir, that's not necessary. My house is very close, so I can walk. And Mr. Jamie said, okay, and he drove off with Michael. Michael showed Mr. Jamie the road he was looking for, and Mr. Jamie gave Michael his number and told Michael to see him tomorrow. Frank was talking to the man who promised to give him a job when his boss comes back from America. And when Frank suddenly remembered that Michael is gonna come home very soon, he told the man to excuse him, and Frank ran outside. And when Frank called Michael, Frank said, Michael, where are you? It's really boring at home. And Michael said, Frank, I'm coming in the next 10 minutes. And so Frank said, okay. And Frank went in and told the man, I need to go. And the man told Frank to come tomorrow because the boss is gonna be in the office. And so Frank went out and he used a taxi instead of a bus so that he's gonna reach home before Michael. When Frank reached home, after some minutes, Michael also reached home. And he found Frank sleeping. Of course, Frank wasn't sleeping. He was just pretending to be sleeping. And when Michael thought Frank was sleeping, so he decided to go to bed as well. And the next morning, Michael told Frank to follow him to see Mr. Jamie. And Frank said, I don't think that's possible because my head's still hot. And so Michael said okay, and he went to see Mr. Jamie. When he met Mr. Jamie took Michael to his office, and when Michael reached Mr. Jamie's office, guess what? Frank and Mr. Jamie Michael and Mr. Jamie saw Frank there. So dead. And so when Mr. Jamie saw Frank, he asked Michael, I thought you said Frank was sick. The man standing next to Frank said, no sir, he's not sick. This man have been coming for 2 weeks, and you told me you're looking for a new employee, so I found one for you, and here he is. His name is Frank. Mr. Jamie said, no, I already got one. And the man asked, where's the person? Mr. Jamie said, look at him, his name is Michael. Michael was so angry and he said, Frank, so this is where you have been going all this while and you didn't want me to know that you're looking for a job. You're the worst best friend I've ever seen in my entire life. And so Frank walked out, and so Michael walked out of the office with anger. And Mr. Jamie told Frank, get out of my office and go home and keep lying to yourself that you're sick. And Frank went home and he was waiting for Michael to come back so he can tell another lie. Michael didn't come back because Mr. Jamie told Michael to stay in his house, and Mr. Jamie also told Michael that he wants Michael to follow him, to travel with him to New York. And so after one month, Michael's papers were ready and Michael and Mr. Jamie traveled to New York. It was then that Frank decided to swallow his pride and he went to Mr. Jamie's office because he wanted to apologize to Michael. He thought Michael was working there. And when Frank reached there, the man there in the office told Frank that Mr. Jamie and Michael traveled to New York this morning. And Frank was so sad and bitter. And he said, oh, how I wish I wasn't a liar. So Frank remained jobless and Michael got a really good job in New York. So you see, it does not pay to be a liar. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed my story. Subscribe for more story, like, share, and have a wonderful and a blessed day. See you next Friday. Bye bye.